This is Gemara Nazir Daf Tes Vav, and we're holding on Yudalit Amid Beis, approximately 10 lines from the bottom. We just finished Le Mitzvah Giluach, or the first two words on the line, the Mitzvah's Giluach. We pick it up from the statement of Rav Yossi Rav Chanina, which we're going to try to discuss today. What happens if someone violates his Nazirus in any form of the manner, but mamish at the end, very similar to what we had in the previous daf at the finish line. So I'm Rav Yossi Rav Chanina. Nazir shekalu la yamav, a Nazir that the days of his Nazir is finished. Perhaps it was a 30 days down Nazirus and we're on day 30. And what happens? He becomes Tameh. Like him, ala Toma, he gets Malkus. However, Veinoi like he doesn't get Malkus al Hatiglachas. If he did not get take the haircut yet, but loy alayayin, but not for wine. So we have this unique split, says the Gemara, that he becomes Tameh before the full end, before he finished everything, he gets Malkus. But if he drank wine, or he took a haircut before the full end, then he does not. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. Maishna Tama Delaki. What's the reason? Excuse me, I'm sorry that everyone's Gemara on their screen just shrunk. There it is. Says the Gemara, Maishna Tama. What's the reason that when it comes to Tama Delaki, you get Malkis? The reason being, says the Gemara, the Amar Kra. We learn it out from a pasuk that teaches Kol Yimei Heiziru LaHashem, and from this pasuk we learn out L'Rabbis Yamim Shalacher Meleis Ki Yamim Shalivnei Meleis, that the word Kol, all the days of Nazirus to Hashem, comes to include that even the days after he finished his term, after day 30, is like beforehand, and therefore he gets Malkus. Based on that premise, ask the Gemara 6 lines to the bottom, Yachi, I don't understand. Atiglachas nami l'chayiv. The same thing should be for tiglachas. Why? The Amar Rachmana says the Torah, Kol yemei neder nizrei ta'ar lo yaver al roishoi. When pasuk of cutting the hair, or ta'ar, not putting the razor in your head, it also says the word kol. So why does the word kol not come to teach us the same thing? Last is yamim shel achar meleos. Ki yamim shelivnei meleos, that the days after the days finish should be like the days beforehand. And if you want, you got a haircut, you get malchus visu. And furthermore, asks the Gemara, Kol yemei nizroi, from the fact that the Torah says all the days of his naziros mikol sheyasim mikefan yayin, that anything that comes from grapes, wine, he cannot drink. We should say as well, lasis yam shel achar meleos ki yam shelivnei meleos. So ask the Gemara as we conclude Daf Yudalit Amid Beis, I don't understand what is the difference between becoming Tameh at the end of the term that we're saying you get Malkus, and between the halachas of haircuts, the halachas of drinking wine that we're learning right now that you would not get Malkus. So we turn over to Tazayin of an Aleph and says the Gemara Shiny Hacha. You know what the difference of Tameh is? Damar Achmana. Says the Torah, v'tamei roish nizroi, and he should be tamei the Nazir's head. What do we learn out from here? Mishe nazru talui lohi beroishai. An additional pasuk teaching me that if someone in his Nazirus is literally talui, it's hanging on his head, meaning that he finished the days. That's the reason why he's still within the parsha of V'tamei roish nizroi, and if he becomes tamei, he'll get malchus. Meisvei asks the Gemara is not happy about this. Again, the differentiation between tamah and between getting a haircut and drinking wine. Says the Braisa, Nazir shekalo yamav asur ligalei ach v'lishtos yayin uletamei meisim. The Braisa puts everything in one boat. If the day's finished, you're still forbidden to get a haircut and to drink wine and to become tamei. And then the Brisa explicates, V'mgilach v'shasa yayim minit malameisim. If you did any of these three, so we see for all three, even though the day's finished, it's the same halacha. Says the Gemara, you are indeed correct. To Yufta, and there goes the statement of Yusuf Rav Yehuda to start today. There is no differentiation between haircuts, wine, and becoming tamei. And we continue with a Mishnah. This Mishnah should sound slightly familiar, as in reality this is the Seifa of the previous Mishnah when we have two Naziros is coinciding and how we determine what the halachas are. So says the Mishnah, Areini Nazir, if one says, I am a Nazir, but when am I a Nazir? Lichshayei li ben, when I have a son, v'Nazir me'or yom, And he adds on that as well, he should be a Nazir for 100 days. If he gives birth to a child ad shivim, until 70 of his 100 days of his Nazirus, what's the halacha? Loy hifsid klum. He loses nothing. We already learned basically his halacha. Because he has a 30-day, a time period of Nazirus left, that will be enough to be his Nazirus on his son, and it's not going to mess up the up to 70 days that he already was a Nazir of his 100 days Nazirus. But, says the Mishnah, La'achar shivim soiser. After 70 days, it's soiser, it messes it up. It messes the Nazirus up that he did already. Shivim she'ein tiglacha, soiser shivim. It messes up the 70 days. There's a little bit of a shayla in the girsa, whether it's Seiser Shivim or not. It's part of the machlekes and all the rishonim on the page over here. But it concludes the Mishnah, why she'ein tiglachas pachas mishlei shimyim. You can't have a din of tiglachas. There's no haircut. There's no naziros. Less than 30 days. So if you have 30 days left, then fine. If you don't have 30 days left, then it messes up that which happened already. And we begin with a statement of Rav Yosi, which is really going to carry a statement of Rav, which is going to carry us through a good chunk of today's daf. Omar Rav, Yoim Shivim, Oilo Lakanu Lakan. That statement of Rav, that day 70 counts for both sides of the coin. Let's understand what's going on over here. We said in the Mishnah, ad day 70. When any time we have an ad, we always have this fundamental shayla in everything. Does it include day 70 or does it not include day 70? So comes along Rav and Rav says, include or not include. Day 70 you could double count. Day 70 could count for the part of the 100, and he could count as day 1 of the remainder to have 30 days left. Statement of Rav, and now we're going to try to see if Rav can stand the test of time. Where did Rav get this din from, and whether it fits with other Mishnayos, etc. Asks the Gemara on the first line after the Mishnah. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. If the baby is born until ad 70, you lose nothing. What's the obvious implication of the Mishnah of Yisal Gedaitach? But according to you, Rav, that it counts for both. It's agure mitzgar. If it counts for both, then what? It should be, he should gain a day. So why is it on day 70? It should be including day 70. Why? Because day 70 can count both ways. Ella answers the Gemara, Bedenu delay listening ad shivim. You're right, says the Gemara. And in reality, a baby could be born on day 70. But the Mishnah says ad until day 70. Explains the Gemara, the Mishnah did not have to write this. But in classical form, Misham de Katani Seifa Achar Shivim, Soiser Shivim, because the Seifa says if the baby's born Achar, after it messes it up, Ketani Reisha Shivim, therefore the Reisha says Ad Shivim. But in reality, says the Gemara, the Mishnah is not a kasha and Rav could still say that the 70th day counts both terms. Continues the Gemara, Tashema, let's ask from a Braisa, about 15 lines to the end of the Amid. The first word line is Shivim. Tashema mi Seifa, the end of the Mishnah, Achar Shivim. The baby is born after 70. Soiser Shivim, it messes it up. My Acher, what does it mean if the baby is born after, so what, that itself is the kasha, because we see if the baby is born only after 70, clearly implicating, but if it's born on day 70, then not. But according to Rav, there should be no problem. Why? Because even if the baby is born on day 71, there still should be 30 days left, because it can count for both. Answers the Gemara, my achar. Interesting teretz. What does it mean after day 70? It means well after, not on day 71, but from day 72 and afterwards. Says the Gemara, 1 second. But what would happen if the baby is actually born on day 71? Are you really going to stick to your guns and you're going to tell me that if the baby is born on day 71, then it does not mess it up? If that's true, so why would the Reisha say the baby is born until day 70? Even after 70, you're not losing anything, because if after means day 71, and according According to Rav, on day 71 you lose nothing. So why would the Mishnah say if it's born until day 70? Which you already answered, said that because of the Seifa, but now it's a much stronger question. Because the Mishnah could have just said after day 70. Says the Gemara, Ha'amrit, Loi, Sosar. You said it doesn't mess it up. Ela shma mina achar mamish. From the first part of the Mishnah that says ad, and it means just up until. The second part of the Mishnah, achar, must mean right after. Because if not, it should have said that it doesn't contradict until achar day 71. V'chein mas nisan l'rav shma mina. And therefore, from the Mishnah, we learn not like Rav. Little words, a little bit different. It sounds like l'rav shma mina to raya. But of course, as we just explained, and as the Gemara is very clear, we're not bringing a raya to Rav, but we're asking a kasha on Rav. And the Gemara stands with that. Rav, beautiful day, and that day 70 counts both ways, but our Mishnah says that not like you, Rav. And we continue in the Gemara now that we have a bit of a question on Rav, but okay, Rav Tanu Upalig, Rav's let argue in a Mishnah, says the Gemara, Rav Kaman Amr L'Shemaitse. So who does Rav Yes go like? He doesn't go like our Mishnah, so who is the source for the dinner of Rav? 6 lines to the bottom, Tezvavam and Aleph, Ilei Makabah Shal. Maybe he goes like Abba Shal, who's Abba Shal, that's an I'm learned in a Mishnah, Kaiveres Meisai, Shloisha Yamim, and they should hopefully sound familiar as we have this Gemara in Ma'ikatan. Someone buries his dead 3 days kaidim a regal before Yantiv Bali Menu Gzeira Sheva. He has no more of the halachas of Shiva. Shemaini of him 8 days kaidim a regal Bali Menu Gzeira Shleishim. There's no more Shleishim. O mutter, not only is there no Shleishim, what does that mean? Mutter l'saber erev regal. He's able to get a haircut for erev Yantiv. Vim lo yisiber erev regal. But if he doesn't do it then, Asr l'saber acher regal. That is the din of the Tanakama. We turn over to Tezvav and Abayz, and this is the shita that we're looking for, the shita of Abba Shal that the Gemara is suggesting fits with Rav. Turns over the Gemara to Tezvav and Abayz and says the Gemara, Abba Shal loimer. What does Abba Shal say? Afilu lo yisiper. Even if he did not count Kodim Regel, even if he did not count before the Yontiv, mutter lesab, if he lo yisiper Kodim Regel, not count. Even if he did not get a haircut before Yontiv, still, what is the halacha? Mutter l'saber achar regel. Why? Shekishem shemitzah shloisha mivateles gzeira. Says Abba Shal, just like if you counted 3 days, there's no more shiva. Shloisha mivateles gzeira shiva. So too, says Abba Shal, Kach mitzvah shiva mivateles gziras lamid. The Tanakama didn't say the 7. Tanakama said you need 8. Says Abba Shal, no. If you have 7 days, that's enough to get rid of shloishim. So now the Gemara articulates how Abba Shal could potentially be the source for Rav. 4 lines down, Tezvav and Beis. My time to Abba Shal. Where did Abba Shal get this din? That if the person observes 7 days, it's considered as if he already started shloishim, and thereby he cancels shloishim. La mishom is not because the Gesaver Shvi or Lekan. Just like Rav. Rav started off today and Rav told us the day 70 counts both ways. Within the world of Nazirs, they need to have 30 days left, says the Gemara. Rabba Shaul says similarly that day 7 could count for both. It could count for the Shiva and it could count for the Shleishim. That's why as long as you did 7 days, there'll be no more Shleishim. And Abba Shaul will be the source to Rav. Says the Gemara, no, Raya. 6 lines down, says the Gemara, it's apples and oranges. Avelus. It's a din derabanan. Avol bin Nazir era halachas deraisa. So therefore, we have no raya that Abba Shal would necessarily hold to his guns that we could say the lekanu lekan on the deraisa level. So says the Gemara, who is the source for Rav? Ella, continues the Gemara, Rav the Amar, Kirav Yosi. Rav holds Rav Yosi of Gemara Psachim fame. Titanya Rav Yosi Shaimeres Yoim Kineged Yoim Sheshachtu Vizarku Aleh B'Sheni Shelah. We have a woman that is observing one day against the next day. She had a discharge of blood, and therefore on day 1, she has to wait for the next day. On day 2, she has to wait for the next day. And then if it's a 3-day discharge, then she becomes a Zavah Gedel and she has to wait Zayinikim. So if on day 1 or day 2 she's waiting for the next day, and what does she go and she does? She shechs the Karban Pesach, or she has the Karban Pesach shechted for her, and she does the Zrika, and then v'achrach rasa, and then unfortunately she sees what? She sees afterwards, while she's waiting, she's being shomer, she's guarding that day, and unfortunately she sees blood in that day. What's the halacha? She's not able to eat for the Karban Pesach. Why? Because she is tamei. But she is pater from bringing the Karban Pesach Sheni. Because the halacha of Pesach Sheni is only if you're tamei on Yudalid, the 14th of Nisan, do you bring the Karban Pesach. But says Rav Yosi that the woman is tamei, but still she cannot bring the Karban Pesach Sheni. Why? Stay tuned one moment. Says the Gemara, my time with Rav Yosi. Where did Rav Yosi get this din from? He's splitting a hair? La misham is not because the Kasavar Rav Yosi holds mixas ayoim kekuloi. That part of the day is going to be considered the whole day, and therefore, since she's going to have part of the day, she's going to be considered as if she was tar, and therefore it's going to be considered like she was tar in Yodalid, and therefore she's pater for being the Pesach Sheni. But practically, she's tamei right now. She can't eat the Karban that she's trying to bring. Now, there's a bit of a shayla and a gears over here. Mimai v'dilmo mishun dekasavar mikanu labo metame. So the Gemara says, what does Rav Yosi hold? Mixes hayoim is kekuloi. So part of day 14, she was tar, so there's no Pesach Sheni. And Rav Yosi has to hold that when she becomes tamei, it's only mikanu laba from that moment and further. And that's the reason why she can't eat the Karban Pesach right now. So we have this funny duality in Rav Yosi that we could split a hair and say on one hand she was tar on Yudalid, no Karban Pesach Sheni. On the other hand, she's tamei now, and therefore she can't eat the Karban Pesach for tonight. And this is going to be the source for Rav of saying day 70 counts for both. Why? Mixas hayom kekulai. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Omisav Rav Yosi Achid, Rav Yosi really hold this? Vatani, we learned in a Braisa. Rav Yosi, Omer says Rav Yosi, Zav al shtei riyah sheshachtu v'zarku alav b'shvi, if we have a Zav, which is a comparable case to a Zava. That's all 2 times shechs and throws the blood on the 7th day. V'chein shemeres yom, here it is, can I get yom? The exact same halacha. And then she sees afal pi. And in this Braisi, Rav Yosi explains explicitly, afal pi shemetamin mishkav u'maishav. Even though she makes what she sits on tamei limafreya. So says the Gemara, can't be that Rav Yosi holds in the morning she was tar, so no Pesach Sheni. In the afternoon she's tummy, so she can't eat the Karban. Mikanu labo umetami, she's only tummy from the moment she sees blood and onward. As we have an explicit Braisa that says she's metame limafreya. So says the Gemara, what's going on with the Shita of Rav Yosi? Answers the Gemara, no kasha, my limafreya. Midrabanan. It's all a din debarabanan. So really, Rav Yosi, she's tamei from this moment and further. Midrabanan, we say she's tamei backwards. And says the Gemara, Achanam Bistavron, with this we conclude, this is logical. These are midaraisa. The obvious kasha. My beturim malasos bezel sheni. If midaraisa, she's retroactively tamei. So then on a daraisa level, she's tamei when? The whole 14th day. And therefore, of course, she'd be chayiv in the Karban bezel sheni. So says the Gemara, it's very logical to say that the Tumah is only a din, dirabana, and this can be the source for Rav, like Rav Yosi, that mixes hayoim kekuloi. Says the Gemara, the raya, the achana mistavra is not a raya. Why not? Really, I can tell you, Tumah da'araisa, Tahoim de Ziva Etira, and there's a special kula when it comes to the deep of Ziva, a special kula that we're going to allow her to theoretically bring the Karban Pesach, and that's the reason why she's pater from the Pesach Sheni, because she was Shaykh. So the Hachanan B'Stavra is not a raya, but at the moment we're still holding that Rav could hold like Rav Yosi. We'll pick it up from here, in which we have other rayas l'mafreya is tamei, and we'll stop over here and pick it up from here in the next year. B'siyata dishmaya.